This is the NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutagen Canister Prop Replica. After waiting in a puddle of radioactive waste, 4 radical reptiles were transformed into New York City's greatest crime-fighting quartet. Now you can own a full-size replica of the Mutagen canister that started it all. Press a button and green light glows through the crack in the side. It even comes with reusable ooze. Let's go ahead and take the tape measure, figure out how big the canister stands, or how long it is, I should say. From one end to the other end, it's exactly 13 inches in length. While we're at it, we can also take the height of it. That is, assuming if you're going to be laying it down like this. It's roughly 3.5 inches in height. The canister is comprised of plastic, and it does have a weighted feel to it. In fact, you feel more the weight on the interior or the center section of the canister. The outer ends here are just simply plastic, and these will open up. Before we have a look at that, though, some details to the canister itself. It's got a big, giant crack in here, which will play a lot then into the ooze, as well as the light-up option. I'll talk about that in a second. Up at the top there, we've got CG2 radioactive material. The canister is otherwise pretty pristine. It's a lot more pristine than it does look in the original movie, in which Splinter's retelling the tale of when he found the 4 baby turtles. And you can see the canisters sitting right there in a big pond and pool of radioactive ooze the turtles are sitting inside of. This is all actually printed on rather than stickered on. I thought this may have actually been stickered on, but it seems actually more so that it's been printed. It's got a couple of scratches here, and I guess it's supposed to give it that sense that it does have wear to it. On the side, you can see that it's just got these rub marks here, pretty much around the side, and a couple of wear marks in the middle. It's really hard to decipher whether that is a manufacturer's error or if it's supposed to be simply like that. One thing I am thinking that it is accurate to the way it's supposed to be is it looks like there is a thumbprint. One right there and one right there. This could simply just be a case that they've taken a dry brush and just kind of added some wear to it. But it does almost look as if it's got a fingerprint or thumbprint sitting right there. I assure you that's not mine, nor is this one right here. It's got some labeling on the side. I don't want to say labeling. That's really the one thing I want to move myself away from saying. It's printed on radioactive material, and on one side it says 2. This also side is just a straight copy to this one right here. Now, these will both open up on either side. I'll talk about that also in a second. But a nice overall look to the canister. Could it have afforded a little bit of... Here, I think they could have darkened this area up just a slight bit, so it made it look a little bit more recessed. In the original movie, it does have a little bit more of a darker area in these little slotted grooves. One thing as well, you'll notice that it says TCRI. Now that stands for Techno Cosmic Research Institute. That in the sequel, they changed that to TGRI because they wanted to get away from the alien element of it. So in the 1991 film, the corporation is actually called TGRI, which stands for Global Techno-Global Research Industries. What's so funny, though, is that in Secret of the Ooze, they changed it to TGRI, and yet in the remake, or reboot, if you will, if you want to call it that, the 2014 film, the mutagen appears in a TCRI canister, going back to the comic roots. And also in the film Out of Shadows, Baxter Stockman also works for TCRI. So really, it's only Secret of the Ooze that seems to want to change that and get away from its alien elements by changing that to a G. It would have been neat, though, as a nod if NECA had released a secondary canister, which was based from The Secret of the Ooze, which actually had the wording TCRI changed to TGRI, just for a nice nod to fans. Looking at the crack there, I don't know if you can see it or the camera's doing it justice, but the crack is fully deep. It goes right inside the canister itself. Like I said, either one of these ends are removable. What you do is, there's a little L-shaped groove, and there's these little tab points here. Luckily, the tabs seem thick enough that they're not going to break on me, but there is definitely a specific way that you have to put them in. You don't really have to worry about lining up on both ends. Lining up one usually is enough. It slots its way in, and then you're going to turn it to lock it in place. The same thing is for the other side as well. So we're going ahead and open the one side, and here's your battery compartment. It takes 3 AA, or actually I should say 3 AAA batteries, and there's your on and off switch right there. At the time that I picked this up, it didn't have batteries in it, so I did need to install batteries. That may be consistent across the board. Your on and off switch is located right down below. Simply just switch it to on, and you have this very bright projected green light that's coming through the canister. Now, a lot of that is just a cheat, really. It's a clear tube inside, or actually I should say it's a white light, and the tube itself is a translucent green, and I don't know if you can see it or not. It looks like there is just a series of LED lights that just run along the top area there. And hopefully, get the camera, there's 1, there's 2. They're all run along the top here, basically just a strip of lights. The bottom doesn't seem to have that, but what's neat though is the light reflects to the bottom and basically bounces off, so it does give it that sense that there's a liquid inside. There technically is, only when you get to this end right here. So what I'll do is I'm going to put this on, and just to show you how that light looks, let's cut the lights here. With the lights cut, you can definitely see a better idea of how bright that projects. And just think, that's coming only from a series of strand lights, just one strand of light on the top there. And I'll again see if I can tip it. See, there's the one light, there's a second one, there's a third one. I want to guess that there's probably about 7 or 8 lights on that strand that's projecting the brightness here that's happening on the inside of the canister. So let's go ahead and take that off once again, shut it off, and let's have a look at the other side of the canister, because there's a nice pleasant surprise. Go ahead and twist this off, pop it off, and inside you've got yourself a canister of real ooze. Now don't worry, these aren't going to turn you into radical ninja fighting reptiles, although maybe if that's what you want, it probably, well, you're going to have to go into the movies to do that. Now, I must admit, the canister, it has one problem with it, at least the one that I have. The lid, as well as the flap, I'm going to have to grab my screwdriver here. The lid and the flap has been twisted. There we go. This would not fit over top of these tabs, so I'll just take my screwdriver and rotate it and pop that right out. Then you've got your TCRI radioactive material. Got some tape on either side. We can go ahead and remove that. I wanted to keep the ooze, at least for the reveal in this review. I didn't bother taking it off and installing it into the canister first and foremost, because I didn't want to have to go in and clean that out. And I'll show you the ooze. Probably have to prepare the backdrop a little bit just because I don't want to get slime everywhere. But let's go ahead and open up the canister. Now, the best comparison I can make to this, obviously there were Ninja Turtle oozes available on the market as well, but this very much harks back to the ectoplasmic ooze that came with the Real Ghostbusters line. It's somewhat thick. Some slimes, if you will, have been more the variety of like a more liquid, something that you could almost pour. This is more gelatinous, I would suppose, in comparison. I've got surprisingly, one little chunk in here that feels denser than everything else. But this slime is the type of slime that you could theoretically rip up. You could just break that up here and you can pull it off as separate shapes. So it's a little bit of a, like I said, a thicker variety of slime. What I will do though, I'm going to just get my backdrop prepared for this. There is a little slot. I don't know if you can see it right there. There's all this extra plastic material in there, but there's a slot, there's an open groove right here that you're going to pour the slime into. And through that, the slime is going to run its way through, and if you have it tipped properly, the slime, in theory, should run its way outside the cracks here. Because this is completely open and exposed. See my finger right there, or see the, let me grab the screwdriver here. There's the screwdriver. See, this is completely open. Slime's going to go through there, and it's going to come out the cracks here. And because I use a paper backdrop for reviewing, I don't know if you know that or not, because this is a paper backdrop, basically any bit of moisture that's going to hit it will damage the backdrop. So I've just lined a little bit of plastic over top of it. And we're going to go ahead and take the slime here and just bring the camera maybe up a little bit. We're going to dump it into the top canister, the open slotted area of the Mutagen canister here. We're just going to drop a little bit in. Oops, try not to drop it on the back. I just finished saying that. Run it through. Now, I will say, because it is a thicker variety of goo, it's not going to run as easy as one would hope. In fact, you may have to find yourself sort of just pushing it in there. And the reasoning why I tipped the canister up was so I could sort of have gravity working in my favor. The thing about this particular slime too, having enough experience with it when I was growing up, unless they've changed the formula to it, this stuff dries out pretty quickly. If you leave the canister opened, which is something I would definitely not recommend doing, you'll find that this slime will start drying up. I don't really know to how long that will take, but it's not something that you will forever and ever, amen, have this slime in your possession. That may not be the case at all. But again, we're just going to tuck as best we can through the little opening canister there. Tuck it in place. It's sort of a detriment, I have to admit. It's a pro and a con to the fact that this is a denser slime. One thing is, with it not being as liquidy, it means as well that it's going to be a lot easier to clean up. It being a little thicker, granted, means also as well you're going to have the problem with it feeding naturally through the canister. And again, I'm just going to line up the groove, slot that in place, and turn the canister. Now again, this isn't moving all that much, certainly at a faster speed. You can kind of pull it out a little bit, but it really isn't. And I really haven't had this for a long period of time either. But the Ooze definitely could have been of a thicker variety. Now we can go ahead though and open up the other side. Turn on the switch. A lot of it though is going to be covered by the slime. The slime's going to kind of cover over the light source. But at the very least, it does project whatever areas the slime isn't coming out of. And let's go ahead and just cut the lights again. Let's see how good it looks with the lights off. The reasoning why I cut the lights again was I wanted to show you that despite for the fact that the slime is blocking over the light, it is of just enough density that the light seems to still peek its way through the mutagen, or the slime rather. The slime again doesn't flow very well at all. It's really on the dense variety. But at the very least, you can see that light still manages to show its way through. Now, that may vary depending on how thick the slime is that you have in that one area. It just so happens that this section here, I've got very little slime here, but the light's still managing to show through. Now again, results may vary. You may find yours runs a little bit easier than mine, and again, just kind of shaking it, it's not the greatest of slime. You probably could easily go to the dollar store and get some really cheap slime. I'm talking the stuff that's slimy, very thin, very mucousy. That would probably flow a lot easier out of here. But one other thing that you have to factor in, it's going to make a lot more of a mess to try to clean that up after the fact. Again, the slime doesn't really do the greatest of jobs of coming out. A lot of times I'm sort of just redirecting where it needs to go, and then hoping that gravity is going to kind of work in my favor. I think what the appeal of this particular item is the fact that it has the show value. I don't necessarily need it to have slime coming out of it, because that's not something I'm ever going to have displayed. What I do appreciate, though, is the fact that it does have that light source that peeks through it, so at the very least it looks as if it's filled, even if it's not. I simply love the fact that NECA is giving us reproductions of some of the movie props that we saw in the movie, specifically the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The TCRI Mutagen Canister looks great, and it's made of a light enough material that it's not going to break the bank if you want to pick this one up for yourself. At a price point of roughly about $50 to $60, I don't think it's overly expensive. If they had gone the route of more metal, as we've seen with some of the Freddy Krueger glove pieces, then of course the value of the canister would be a lot higher. The details are sufficient enough. I like that they put the TCRI reference there to the comics and not rather Secret of the Ooze. And I like that it's not what I seem to notice though. I like that it's not stickered. They haven't put stickers on these, rather they've actually printed it on the canister. So I don't have to worry that over time that sticker is going to start to fray and may potentially come off. I also like the fact that there's a light up source on here as well. So if you don't have slime inside of it, at the very least, you can turn the canister light on and it looks like it's filled with slime. The only thing that's the detriment to this, the only real con I can think of this release, is the fact that the slime that they gave you isn't of a thin enough variety that it naturally flows out of the crack. Now that again can work in your favor, because it means when you are cleaning it up, it's going to clean up a lot easier than if you had a clear, more mucousy slime coming out the end of it. I will say this though, this is not something that you would ever want to have on display with the slime inside. Slime by its nature, once it starts drying out and the moisture gets out of it, it means that that slime is going to start crumbling up. In fact, actually, for the very little amount of time that this has been getting screen time here on this review, whatever little bit of slime I had dropped off here actually has already started to crumble in my hand. So once that moisture starts coming out of it, you're not going to get the slimy slime that you were getting when you first opened this up out of packaging. Slime can be picked up anywhere. You can get that at any dollar store, or a lot of retail stores also still sell it of different varieties. You could probably easily come across green. You may come across also a more thinner variety of mucus or slime mutagen that you could add to this canister that probably will give you a better effect than the one that NECA had supplied for you. Still though, slime is not how I'm going to be displaying it with. I just like the fact that it has the light up option and it's got that big crack right down the middle of it, exactly how it looked like in the film. If you guys are interested in picking this one up for yourself, it should be available now in comic book stores. Today we were having a look at the NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was the Mutagen Canister Prop Replica. It just also so happens that I've had this for a while, I just never got around to reviewing it. So if you're wondering why this video is a little on the late side, that's the only reason why. We're going to have a look at some more NECA goodies coming your way in future videos, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so. Many more videos will be coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.